Evan Hale had trained for this mission for 5 years. He had trained his body in low gravity, his lungs for thin air, and his voice to remain calm even when surrounded by beings that did not look human at all. He had studied alien customs, alien logic, and alien silence. He had learned how not to stare, how not to offend, and how not to panic. What he had not learned was how to stop thinking. The station called Muravel Drift floated between three stars like a silver scar in space. It was the first place where more than 20 intelligent species met without war. Humans had only joined the greater galactic community 2 years ago, and Evan was one of the first cultural liaisons sent to live among them. He stood now inside a wide hall filled with soft light and curved walls. The air smelled faintly sweet, adjusted carefully for human lungs. Around him, aliens moved in slow lines, floating, walking, or gliding on surfaces that changed shape for their bodies. Evan kept his hands behind his back and his face neutral. "This is fine," he told himself, "just another day. Do not think anything stupid." That was when he heard laughter. It was light, sudden, and completely out of place. Evan blinked and looked around. Most of the beings in the hall did not react at all. A few turned their heads in curiosity. The laughter came again, clearer this time, like chimes shaking in water. He turned toward the sound and saw her. She stood near a wall that glowed pale blue, her posture relaxed, her arms folded loosely in front of her. She was clearly alien, but close enough to human shape that his brain tried to make sense of her anyway. She was a little taller than Evan, with smooth, silver-toned skin that reflected the light softly. Her eyes were large and dark, without visible whites, and her hair flowed down her back in thin strands that shimmered like glass. She was looking directly at him. And she was laughing. Evan felt heat rush to his face. No, 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 no. He quickly reviewed his last few thoughts, his stomach sinking as realization hit him. He had not said anything. He had not moved. But his mind had drifted just for a moment in a direction it should not have gone. He looked away sharply. Focus, Evan, professional thoughts only. He took a breath and forced his mind toward neutral subjects, station layouts, mission goals. The diplomatic report he still needed to write. The laughter stopped. Slowly, he glanced back. The alien woman was still watching him, her expression curious now, her head tilted slightly to one side. Her lips twitched like she was holding something back. Evan swallowed. This is bad. He stepped forward, reminding himself of protocol. When approached by a telepathic species, remain calm. Do not accuse. Do not react emotionally. Most telepaths only read surface intent, not private imagination. "Hello," he said clearly, his voice steady. "I am Evan Hale, representative of the Human Coalition." Her smile widened. "Oh, I know," she said. Her voice was musical, her accent soft but clear. "Your thoughts announced you long before your mouth did." She laughed again, shorter this time, like she genuinely could not help it. Evan froze. "You can hear my thoughts?" he asked carefully. "Only the loud ones," she replied easily. "And humans are very loud." He felt his face grow warmer. "I apologize if any of my thoughts were inappropriate," he said, choosing his words with extreme care. She looked confused for a moment. Then her eyes brightened. "Oh, those," she said, waving a hand lightly. "Those were amusing, not offensive. Amusing." Evan was not sure that made him feel better. "My name is Lerny," she continued. "I am assigned to observe human cognition." "Of course you are," Evan thought. She burst out laughing again. This time, several nearby aliens turned to look. Evan closed his eyes for a brief, painful moment. "I'm sorry," she said between laughs, though she did not sound very sorry. "It is just that your species does not filter imagination the way others do. It all spills out at once." "I am trying very hard not to imagine anything," Evan said through clenched teeth. "That is why it is worse," Lerny replied gently. "When you try to suppress, the mind pushes back." He opened his eyes and looked at her again. Up close, he noticed fine patterns along her skin, faint lines that shifted slowly like living art. "You really can hear all that?" he asked. She nodded. "Your surface thoughts, emotions, associations, images, not the deep memories. Those are protected even from us." That was something, at least. "I assure you," Evan said, "humans value privacy very highly." "I can tell," Lerny said. "Your mind is full of barriers, they just collide with each other." She studied him openly now, not hiding her interest. Evan had the uncomfortable feeling of being seen from the inside out. "Does this happen often?" he asked. "With other humans?" She tilted her head again. "Often enough that I requested assignment to your delegation." That was not reassuring. They began to walk together, her pace matching his easily. As they moved, the hall shifted subtly, clearing space ahead of them. "You are different from the others," Lerny said. Evan sighed. "I hear that a lot." "No," she said, shaking her head. "I mean humans. Your minds do not flow in straight lines. You think five things at once, contradict yourselves, joke internally, and imagine outcomes that will never happen." He gave a weak smile. "That sounds about right. And yet," she continued, "your core intent remains stable." "That is rare." They passed a group of tall, insect-like beings who glanced at Evan with unreadable expressions. He suddenly became aware of how exposed he was. "Lerny," he said quietly, "are others hearing my thoughts too?" She laughed again, softer this time. "No. Only my kind can process this chaos without injury." "Injury?" "Yes," she said simply. "Untrained telepaths attempting to read humans experience headaches, emotional flooding, or loss of focus." Evan stopped walking. "That seems important." "It is," she agreed. "The council is concerned." They stood near a wide viewport now, the stars beyond stretching endlessly. Evan folded his arms, trying to ground himself. "Concerned about what?" he asked. "That if your minds are this strong by accident," Lerny said, looking out into space, "what would happen if you focused them on purpose?" Evan had no answer. Silence settled between them, broken only by the soft hum of the station. For once, Lerny did not laugh. Her expression had grown thoughtful, almost serious. "I hope you do not feel ashamed," she said after a moment. Evan blinked. "Ashamed? Yes, many humans feel it when I react to their thoughts," she said. "But shame is unnecessary. What you think is not what you choose to do." He considered that. "On Earth," he said slowly, "we're taught that thoughts can say something about who we are." She looked at him gently. "Among my people, thoughts are weather, actions are shelter." That was unexpectedly comforting. They resumed walking. Evan focused on that idea, turning it over carefully in his mind. "Weather, shelter." Lerny smiled but did not laugh. "That one is pleasant," she said. He smiled back, feeling a strange sense of relief. As they reached the corridor leading toward the human quarters, Lerny stopped. "I will continue observing you," she said, "if you allow it." "I don't think I have much choice," Evan replied. She laughed again, but this time it was warm, not surprised. "No," she agreed. "You do not." As Evan walked away, he could feel her presence still, like a quiet echo at the edge of his mind. He knew with sudden certainty that this meeting was only the beginning. Somewhere deep within the station, alarms remained silent, plans unspoken. And across the stars, something was listening. Evan did not sleep well after that first meeting. His quarters were quiet, lights dimmed to a soft glow meant to calm human minds. It did not work. Every time he closed his eyes, his thoughts wandered, and every time they wandered, he imagined Lerny laughing somewhere nearby. Even knowing she was not present did not help. The idea that someone could hear his thoughts had changed something inside him. He rolled onto his side and stared at the ceiling. "This is ridiculous," he told himself. "She said she only hears surface thoughts. Just don't think loudly." That thought alone almost made him laugh, and he clamped down on it quickly. The next morning, the station felt different. Evan noticed it the moment he stepped out into the main corridor. Conversations paused when he passed. Aliens of many species glanced at him with new interest, some curious, some cautious. A few moved a little farther away than necessary. Humans are loud, Lerny had said. Now it felt like everyone knew. He made his way to the shared briefing chamber where representatives gathered each cycle. As he entered, he saw Lerny already there, standing near a curved table that adjusted its height constantly for different bodies. She noticed him instantly. She smiled. Evan sighed quietly. He took his seat and focused on the meeting display: trade routes, research exchanges, habitat agreements, normal diplomatic work. He forced his mind to stay on the words, repeating them silently like an anchor. For several minutes it worked. Then a ripple passed through the room. Several telepathic species shifted uncomfortably. One of them, a tall being with translucent skin, pressed a hand to its head. "What is that?" it asked sharply. Evan felt his stomach drop. Lerny's smile vanished. She looked at Evan, her eyes widening slightly. "Evan," she said carefully, not speaking aloud but letting the word brush against his thoughts. "Are you distressed?" He froze. That was different. Yes, he thought back before he could stop himself. "I didn't know you could do that on purpose." Her mental presence pulled back instantly, respectful. "I apologize," she said aloud. "I should have warned you. I only connected lightly." The translucent being let out a low sound of discomfort. "The human mind is destabilizing the chamber," it said. "This is unacceptable." Evan stood before anyone could stop him. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "I don't mean to cause harm. I'm not doing anything intentionally." "That is the problem," another telepath said. "Your thoughts are uncontrolled." Lerny stepped forward. "They are uncontrolled because they are free," she said calmly. "That is not the same as hostile." The room grew tense. Evan felt a strange pressure in his head, like invisible fingers testing his thoughts. He stiffened, instinctively pushing back without even knowing how. Images flashed through his mind, random memories, half-formed ideas, jokes, music, feelings, all colliding at once. Several telepaths recoiled. One stumbled back, breathing hard. "Stop probing him," Lerny snapped. "You will hurt yourselves." Silence fell. The council leader, a massive being who communicated through slow pulses of light, shifted colors. "Enough," it signaled. "The human is not at fault. This session is adjourned." As beings filed out, Evan stood shaking slightly. He had not meant to do any of that. He had not even understood what was happening until it was over. Lerny approached him quietly. "You defended yourself," she said. "I didn't know how," Evan replied. "I didn't even know I was doing it." She studied him with something close to awe. "That is what frightens them," she said softly. They walked together through a quieter section of the station. Evan noticed now that some corridors were empty, cleared deliberately. "They're scared of me," he said. "They are cautious," Lerny corrected. "There is a difference." She paused near a wall that shimmered like water. "Evan," she said, "has anyone ever trained humans to control their thoughts?" He let out a short laugh. "People have tried for thousands of years." "And succeeded." "Not really," she nodded slowly. "Then perhaps your species is not meant to be quiet." Later that cycle, the alarms sounded. They were not loud alarms, but deep vibrations felt more than heard. Lights shifted color across the station. Evan was in his quarters when it began, and before he could react, Lerny was there, her presence brushing his thoughts urgently. "Stay calm," she said. "There is a psychic incursion." Evan's heart raced. "What does that mean?" "It means someone is attacking the station through the mind," she replied. "Do not open yourself to it." Before he could ask how, the pressure hit. It felt like drowning without water. A heavy presence pressed against his thoughts, searching, probing, trying to slide into places that did not belong to it. Evan gasped and dropped to one knee. Images flooded his mind: fear, anger, confusion, but also defiance. "Get out," he thought wildly. The pressure recoiled, then slammed back harder. Across the station, telepaths screamed. Lerny staggered, gripping the wall. "Evan," she said urgently, "your mind is resisting in ways we did not expect. You are reflecting the attack." "I don't know how to stop it," he shouted. "Don't," she said. "Just be you." That made no sense. But Evan had no better option. He stopped trying to organize his thoughts. He stopped trying to be calm. He let everything flow: fear, humor, embarrassment, memories of Earth, the sound of rain, the smell of coffee, ridiculous thoughts, serious ones, all crashing together. The pressure shattered. Somewhere far away, something screamed and went silent. The alarms faded. Evan collapsed onto the floor, breathing hard. Lernie knelt beside him, her hands shaking. "That should not have worked," she whispered. Around the station, systems slowly returned to normal. Reports flooded in. The attacking psychic entity had retreated, damaged, confused, unable to maintain coherence against the human mental response. Evan sat up slowly. "Did I do that?" he asked. "Yes," Lernie said. "You did." Hours later, Evan stood before the council again. This time the atmosphere was different. Fear was still there, but so was something else: respect. "You are a liability," one council member said bluntly, "and an asset." "That's fair," Evan replied. The leader pulsed thoughtfully. "The psychic factions beyond our borders have long threatened us," it signaled. "Your species may be the first immune to them." Evan looked at Lernie. She met his gaze, eyes bright. "We do not wish to weaponize you," the leader continued, "but we must understand you." Evan nodded slowly. "So must we." As the meeting ended, Lernie walked beside him in silence. "You were afraid," she said at last. "Yeah," Evan admitted. "I still am." She smiled gently. "And yet you did not break." She laughed softly then, not sudden, not mocking, but full of wonder. "For the first time," she said, "I understand why the galaxy should be careful with humans." Evan smiled tiredly. "Careful how?" "Careful not to underestimate them," she replied. Far beyond the station, in the dark between stars, wounded minds whispered warnings. The humans had arrived, and they could not be controlled. The station did not return to normal after the attack. It looked the same on the surface. Lights glowed softly. Corridors stayed clean and quiet. Ships continued to dock and leave. But something had changed in the way everyone moved, the way they spoke, the way they looked at the humans, especially Evan. He felt it everywhere he went. Some aliens avoided him completely. Others watched from a distance, whispering in their own ways. A few nodded to him with clear respect. None treated him as just another diplomat anymore. That made him uncomfortable. Evan stood alone near one of the wide viewports, staring out at the stars. He liked this place because it helped him think, or at least it helped him accept that thinking was messy and impossible to control. Behind him, he felt a familiar presence. "You are hiding," Lernie said gently. He smiled without turning around. "I call it taking a quiet moment." She came to stand beside him, her reflection faint in the glass. "The council is meeting again," she said. "They want you there." "Of course they do," Evan replied. "They always do now." She watched him closely. "You don't like this attention." "I didn't come here to be special," he said. "I came here to help." Lernie nodded. "You are helping, that is why they are afraid." Before Evan could answer, a sharp pulse rippled through the station. Not an alarm this time, but something deeper, something wrong. Lernie stiffened. "That's not internal," she said. "That's external." Evan's heart sank. "Another psychic attack." "Yes," she replied, "but stronger and coordinated." The lights dimmed slightly. Somewhere far away, a low hum echoed through the structure. Evan closed his eyes and took a slow breath. "What do we do?" he asked. Lernie hesitated. "The council wants to activate the psychic shield. And it will fail," she said quietly. "Whatever is coming has learned from the last attempt." Evan opened his eyes and looked at her. "Then what's their real plan?" She met his gaze. "They want you." The words hung between them. "They want me to stop it," Evan said. "They want you to be the shield," she corrected. He laughed once, short and humorless. "I don't even know how I did it last time." "You didn't try," Lernie said. "You just existed." That didn't sound like a plan, but Evan was starting to understand something important about his own species. Humans were never strongest when they tried to be perfect. They were strongest when they were honest. "I'll go," he said. Lernie's eyes widened slightly. "Evan, But not alone, he added, and not as a weapon. She studied him carefully, then nodded. I will stand with you. The council chamber was full when they arrived. Beings of many shapes and minds filled the space, tension thick in the air. The leader pulsed urgently. The psychic convergence is approaching, it signaled. Our defenses will not hold. Evan stepped forward before fear could stop him. You don't need to control me, he said clearly. You need to trust me. Several council members reacted at once, emotions flaring. You are unpredictable, one argued. Yes, Evan said. That's the point. The pressure began to build again, heavier than before. Evan felt it pressing at the edges of his thoughts, testing, learning. Lernie placed a hand lightly on his arm. You are not alone, she said, aloud and within his mind. Evan nodded. He stopped trying to think clearly. He let himself feel everything. Fear of failure. Anger at being pushed. Humor at the absurdity of it all. Memories of Earth, his family, bad jokes, good food, regret, hope. Love for a species that argued with itself constantly but still kept going. The psychic force hit like a wall. Evan staggered but stayed standing. The attack did not feel like a single mind this time. It felt like many minds woven together, cold and disciplined, trying to impose silence. Evan's thoughts refused to be silent. They clashed. Across the chamber, telepaths cried out, overwhelmed not by pain but by noise. Human noise, contradiction, emotion layered on logic, layered on imagination. The attacking force hesitated. That was its mistake. Evan leaned into it not by focusing but by letting go completely. His thoughts surged outward in waves, messy and impossible to predict. The psychic convergence broke apart, not destroyed but scattered, its unity shattered by minds that could not be synchronized or subdued. Silence fell. Evan collapsed to one knee, breathing hard. Lernie caught him before he fell. Around them the council stared in stunned stillness. It's over, someone whispered. The leader pulsed slowly, its colors deep and steady. The threat has withdrawn, it signaled. Indefinitely. Evan laughed weakly. Guess they didn't like the noise. Lernie laughed too, bright and unrestrained. This time no one mistook it for mockery. In the days that followed, the galaxy adjusted. News spread fast, faster than ships, faster than signals. A psychic defense no empire could crack, a species whose minds could not be owned. Humans. Evan returned to his duties, though they were no longer simple diplomatic tasks. He helped design new cooperation protocols, new rules for psychic contact, new understanding. Lernie stayed close, not as an observer anymore, but as a partner. One quiet cycle, they stood again by the viewport. You know, Evan said, you don't laugh at my thoughts as much anymore. She smiled softly. I do, just not at the embarrassing ones. Oh, he said, that's worse. She laughed, warm and honest. Among my people, she said, laughter means safety, it means trust. He nodded slowly. Then I'm glad, he said, that you're still laughing. Far away in the deep dark between stars, psychic empires turned their attention elsewhere. They had learned a simple truth. Human minds were not weapons. They were storms, and storms could not be controlled. They could only be respected. The galaxy would never forget that, and neither would Evan.